Okay. I am testing this new mic. You'll have to forgive me because I cannot tell how this is going to change while I record it. So I figure I'm just going to try to put it in a comfortable place, and by deviating it a bit in my next video, maybe I can do something a little bit more enjoyable. But I think, tell me what you think about this. I'm thinking to whenever I record at night, which is what I am doing now, I think I could use this background. So it's like, this is my not so serious voice. This is my not so serious, like when I just want to have a night and chill, when I want to talk shit. Like previously, I was talking about sort of like the scientific way of evaluating conspiracy theories. But let's say I want to have a bit of a red wine, maybe have a bit of green wine and talk shit. Maybe this is a really good environment for me to do that. Like you see this background, I'm talking shit. So yeah, I like conspiracy theories. They're fun. But also like a lot of them are pretty dumb. Like that's all we can all admit that. But see, this is where the real conspiracy comes in. Is like there are dumb conspiracies that are spread specifically because they're easy to be like, yeah, that's stupid, right? Think about it. So if you wanted the truth not to be believed, or you wanted the truth to be believed to be a conspiracy theory, what would you do? You'd make absurd theories and then debunk them because that's easy. It's like, oh, 5G towers are like killing us, or they're injecting tracking signals into us, like microchipping us. Like that sounds ridiculous. So you just throw that out there, you debunk it. And then if one of them is true every now and again, they're wrapped up in this overall sort of like bundle of like this conceptual space that are conspiracy theories, or the conceptual space that is conspiracy theories. And by doing that, by tarnishing all of those ideas with the same brush, the silly and stupid ones you can easily debunk, as well as the ones that are actually true. You lump all of those in together, and in someone's mind who doesn't have enough time to think about all this stuff, well, they just all assume that all conspiracy theories are just dumb. And so if something true comes out, all you have to do, call it a conspiracy theory. It gets lumped in with all the rest of the quacky ideas, and voila, you can bypass the minds of most people with the truth being told straight out in front of them. And they still won't see it because in their mind, if something's called a conspiracy theory, then it's in the realm of the flat earthers and the we have never been to the moon and that kind of thing. So, it's easy then to dismiss all of it. And yeah, so then you don't have to think about it. So it's a clever tactic. And do remember, I am just talking shit, drinking wine. Uh, it reminds me, there was this good meme of was it? It was like the QAnon stuff. I'm not sure if you guys know about much about the QAnon. One that I well, it's like talking to someone who has might have similar beliefs to me. It's like, oh my god, you're one of those QAnon conspiracy theorists, aren't you? And the meme character says, "Oh no, I'm much worse. I believe that that QAnon was a psyop, and I have an entire conspiracy theory about it. Like I'm that kind of guy. Like I think the QAnon thing was completely a conspiracy. Um, it was a psyop, basically. It was a way of seeing who could be drawn into this sort of like live action role playing game where like there was a lot of true information. Like I've seen some of the things that they talk about and that they draw on. They do draw on a number of very, very true things, but it's also mixed in with a whole bunch of things that are either impossible to verify or, just so stories, or people want them to be true, but they've kind of become a meme of themselves. And so I think the phenomenon that we saw with the QAnons, that was kind of in that category where it was like, I do think it was like an FBI or a CIA thing. It was certainly governmental of some level, some kind of agency. Um, and they basically, it was a way of distracting. It's called controlled opposition. So that's without going too deep into the QAnon. I followed it for a tiny bit. realized that they were just using the same. So you can detect mind control techniques in writing, because there are some basic sort of like linguistic techniques, commonly called neurolinguistic programming. But there's certain linguistic techniques that people use when they want to suggest a certain emotion or a certain, what you might call, invited reading of a passage. And so the way you phrase certain things is very effective at leading the person to a natural conclusion. And if you want to do this for some kind of like, if you want to do this for psychological operations purposes, it makes sense that you would try to subvert your ideological opponents. And I think that's what we saw with the QAnon thing. It was a subversion psyop. But look, I never went that deep into it. I saw a lot of the signs of a psyop, and so I backed myself out of there. Not to say that there weren't some very interesting ideas. I think it was more. Oh, yeah, it just smelled like a rat to me. So, like I said, I got a conspiracy theory about QAnon being a psyop. So I'm worse than the QAnon psyop, the QAnon people, because I believe that QAnon was a psyop, and have a conspiracy theory about that. Anyway, that was a meme that I saw. Um, yeah, but I guess like a good conspiracy theory, it makes you think. It makes you question what you think you know, and sometimes you come to the same conclusion. A lot of the time, you come to the same conclusion. It's like, oh, do I really believe that, or is that have I verified this, or is there any way it could be debunked? And you're like, no. In the end, I think that's still the most plausible thing, right? Could be the null hypothesis, like just any old worldview, like, oh, is the world actually flat? Let me think that one through. Like, and I think that's a good example. Flat earthers are a good example. Like, I think that flat earthers are one step closer to the truth than the people who believe the earth is round purely because they've been told that it's round. Like, my own critical thinking and analysis and trying to examine it from as many angles as possible, that's the reason that I think it is round. It just fits with everything that I know from physics, of spherical bodies, of pressure, of the evolution of the universe. It seems to be a much more um, simplified and scalable solution to not be flat. It doesn't account for as many interpretations, um, save for the fact that holograms are flat, but they can give the illusion of multiple dimensions, 3 dimensions usually. We give the illusion of 3 dimensions. And it seems like our universe is a hologram or holographic in some way, fractal and holographic. So from that perspective, the flatness of the Earth is on the right path, but it's just sort of like the flatness of the entire universe because it's holographic. But leaving that aside for a moment, I think as far as our 3D reality is concerned, there is merit in the idea that the Earth is round, much more merit than the Earth is flat hypothesis. But as I said, the people who at least go the step of questioning, even if they don't necessarily go all the way to the answer, which is the original starting point. Like the null hypothesis for us is that the Earth is flat. That's just our null because it, well, it's been passed down to us from the Copernican revolution with who was it, Galileo, spreading his pamphlets in the 1600s about Copernicus' discovery against the will of the Catholic Church. Back then, the Earth is flat was the null hypothesis, but now Earth is round is the null hypothesis. The burden of proof is on someone to prove it flat, I think. But that said, I think someone who's attempting to disprove the null hypothesis is at least thinking scientifically. They're trying to disprove the round Earth theory. I doubt they'll be successful unless they go for the holographic angle, which I think has merit to it. But that's a broader question about the very nature of reality itself, and our universe. So I don't think that is quite the solution, or at least I don't think that's quite the argument. It might be the solution, but I don't think yet it's the argument. And so But I think people who just accept that the world is round because they've been told it or they learned it in school and they haven't actually gone to the lengths of trying to debunk that idea. I think that's really important to try to debunk your ideas. And I do believe, if I say so myself, that is something I'm very good at. I really, really try to debunk my own ideas. Usually by the time I get to the stage where I'm saying them out loud, it's because I hope they're wrong or I can't prove them wrong. So like when it came to the COVID thing, I was like, I really hoped that I was the crazy person. Like I really, really hoped that. I was quite afraid that I was not wrong because that was a way scarier outcome than me being wrong. I don't think I've been proven wrong. I mean, no. Anyone who's looking at the evidence, anyone who's actively looking at the evidence and engaging in dialogue, if you're doing those two things, then you know that I was right. If you are either refusing to have dialogue with people or not looking at actual evidence, then it's understandable that you still think that the pandemic happened the way the government said it happened. I think that is a seriously unforgivable sin at this point, but people do choose their ignorance. Anyway, whatever. This is about weed and wine, and my new microphone. Yeah, hopefully this works. Looks pretty good. I do kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool. Got like a mount thing as well. It's heavier than I thought. I am curious the impact on voice at different lengths. I've had this for the most point down here, like that far apart. Not that you can really see that. It's all tangled up. So hopefully the voice on this is not too bad. And hopefully I can actually get something usable out of this. Because I've just been talking shit. And anyway, so I've got this nice new background. Yeah, so I'm talking a bit of shit. What I have done is I've created this nice new background. I think this is going to be a nice background for me to talk shit in. It's good if I'm filming at night, which I am right now, because it's sort of like, I think the lighting sort of suits. It's sort of like we're tucked away in a bit of a booth in this sort of, old school cigar or wine lounge. You and me just having a red or a whiskey or whatever. Cheers. I like this. And I think it could be fun to do a few like these because I can be serious. I'm a scientist. I do like to speak scientifically, but one of the best things about being a scientist is conferences. Being able to do this, going to a hotel, having arguments all night about the nature of reality over a bunch of beers, while also maybe playing some pool. But fundamentally, you care about the argument, you care about the fun and the contest and that's the fun shit. That was a beautiful part about being a scientist, and probably the part I miss the most is that I had what I would have in 2019 and beforehand considered a lot of friends in the science community. I mean, of course, I would always sit down with any single one of them. I think this is what I mean when I say I don't have any grudge against people. Is that I would sit down over a beer with literally any person who wanted to have a beer with me. Any of my scientific colleagues, I totally would. But I feel like that's unlikely to happen with a lot of people because of ideological differences. I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I can't argue with somebody that I deeply, deeply disagree with. In fact, that's one of the best things about being a scientist is to deeply disagree with somebody and do it over a few beers, in a hotel, in a foreign country, somewhere in Europe. Like, man, that stuff was fucking baller. And I deeply miss that. And it's sad to lose something like that because I treasured it very deeply. The ability to have contest of ideas. And to me, that is one of the biggest things that has been lost over the last couple of years is one side believes that they've won that contest and so simply refuses to believe or simply refuses to listen to the other side who would welcome a discussion and wants to have a discussion, but has been barred from every avenue of having discussion over really trivial matters that are so inconsequential. Anyway, that is the situation we find ourselves in. And yeah. Yeah, I would love to go back to a scientific conference. We used to do some beautiful ones in I remember I went to this one in Bremen in Germany um, when I was a PhD student. And it really opened my eyes, to just how enjoyable a life in science as a scientist could be. Um, so yeah, I really I lament the loss of the scientific institution, though it goes on in name only. I believe. I think science as a discipline has been lost. The concept remains, tools exist. I don't think we're fit to call what happens now in the institutions science. I think the best designation I can think for that now is academia. I think it's best we just call it academia, even though those people who want to pretend that they are scientists, I don't think you can call yourself a scientist and break the Nuremberg Code. I think if you do those two things, you are, well, you can't be a scientist and break the Nuremberg Code. I think the two are in direct contradiction. So yeah, and I think if you can't recognize the Nuremberg Code as well, that's a pretty sure sign. So I'd say as far as I'm concerned, science within academic institutions is dead, and we should just designate that whole thing the academic literature. We should just designate that academia. It's not science; it's science adjacent at best. It masquerades as science, but it isn't. Just in the same way as the hospitals masquerade as healthcare, but they're not. They are drug centers, and they are money laundering centers. Um, they are institutions of control, and it's a shame. It is a shame. I lament the loss of our intellectual integrity. Assuming we ever had it, um, I think if we've never had it, then I would like to build it. Or I would like to aim for it. I think it's a noble pursuit, and yeah, it really is one of the harshest things to lose about over the last 2.5 years is a community like that. But it turns out they never really were that. So whatever. So well, this has been a test of my mic. Let's hope there's some good that's come out of it. And anyway, leave it there for now.